It's time to talk about the confusing situation regarding a potential Nintendo Switch Pro. As with Nintendo's president Shuntaro Furukawa's first shareholder meeting of 2020, we learned that no Switch models or revisions will be revealed or released throughout the entire year. Yes, that is from January to December. Nothing regarding Switch hardware upgrades in any of the Nintendo YouTube uploads, Twitter posts, Nintendo Directs, E3, or even the Game Awards this year. No Nintendo Switch Pro in 2020 has become the reality, and it brings up two important questions. Could it come out in 2021, or will there be no Nintendo Switch Pro altogether? And will it impact the release year of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2? Let's explore the possibilities, but first make sure to leave a like on this video and press that subscribe button and notification bell to keep up to date with all of our latest content. Less than 13,000 subscribers to go to 250,000, and we want to get there as soon as possible. The Nintendo Switch is undeniably one of Nintendo's most successful consoles of all time, and within 4 years has managed to surpass 50 million systems sold worldwide. In other words, even if the system was to be replaced today by a successor, it would still be a massive success for Nintendo, with only the NES and Wii selling higher when it comes to home consoles.
Which brings up one detail regarding home consoles, that they're not revised in the same way as handhelds. You get smaller versions of them, like the NES Top Loader, SNES Junior, and the Wii Mini, but with no specification boost like say from the 3DS to the new 3DS. In regards to the Nintendo Switch, we have only so far seen the handheld-only Switch Lite and the battery-upgraded base model Switch. However, we haven't seen any significant hardware performance upgrades in the Switch's generation. This is a shame, seeing as the Nintendo Switch is struggling to play bigger games in 1080p resolution. Breath of the Wild, for instance, was 980p, and The Witcher 3 could not run any higher than in 720p. And that's not all, as the base model Switch also suffers from some durability issues, such as a plastic shell that can crack pretty easily, a poorly made kickstand, and of course the dreaded Joy-Con drifting. There is a fairly long list of improvements needed for the Switch, hence the need for a top-model Nintendo Switch which could address all of these shortcomings, in the same way the PlayStation 4 Pro and the Xbox One X reduced the gaps to the gaming PCs mid-cycle. As recently as January, it looked like things were on the way up, with rumors stating that Nintendo had contracted Nvidia to develop a custom processor based on the Nvidia Volta architecture for a more powerful Nintendo Switch.
Definitely not promising 4K resolutions or any mid-gen jump equal to that seen between the PS4 and PS4 Pro there. But even dreams of stable 1080p 60 frames per second may not become a reality if there is no Nintendo Switch Pro. So is that it for the Nintendo Switch Pro? Not necessarily, as one needs to keep in mind that President Furukawa only stated, quote, that "Please note that we have no plans to launch a new Nintendo Switch model during 2020. Only 2020, which makes sense as Nintendo had two hardware revisions last year, the Switch Lite and the improved base model Nintendo Switch. In other words, unlike some commentators who have already said that the Nintendo Switch will end quickly, maybe as soon as 2022, there's nothing in this hardware statement by Furukawa which supports this claim. Moreover, it doesn't imply anything about future models of the Nintendo Switch post-2020. Thus it could be that Nintendo is still working with Nvidia, that we could see a Nintendo Switch Pro sometime in 2021, a year where it could coincide with the sequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. This is a possibility that we have talked about with Roger Space before, as there is a certain cycle connected to hardware launches and Zelda every second year. Think about it, in 2017 we got the original Switch, and in 2019 we got the Switch Lite and base model Switch with battery improvements. Around the same time in 2017 we got The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, and in 2019 The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening HD. You see the connection? Zelda games and new Nintendo system updates are going hand in hand, and it actually goes much further back than the Nintendo Switch.
Since the Wii launch with The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess in 2006, and the 3DS in 2011 with Ocarina of Time 3D a few months later. Then you have the Wii U with Wind Waker HD, which was revealed right after the launch of the Wii U in the January 2013 Nintendo Direct. Then we have the new Nintendo 3DS launching with Majora's Mask 3D in 2015, and as we already mentioned, Nintendo Switch launching with Breath of the Wild in 2017. And finally, the Switch Lite launching with Link's Awakening HD in 2019. That is a pretty comprehensive comprehensive and, more importantly, consistent list 2011, 2013, 2015, 2017 and 2019. With such a pattern to be observed, it could be entirely possible if an upgraded Switch does appear in 2021 that Breath of the Wild 2 could indeed launch with it. It's the perfect opportunity. Following the huge success of the original game, why wouldn't Nintendo want to kickstart the launch of a new version? It's an ancient, arrow-proof plan. Just think about it, Breath of the Wild was the contributor to launching the Switch to a perfect start. The highly anticipated sequel is sure to have at least a similar effect on a new hardware revision too. Although this speaks for itself, Breath of the Wild 2 with a Nintendo Switch Pro will also be playable on the 50+ million base model Switch Basics and Switch Lite, similarly to how PlayStation 4 Pro games work nearly as good on the PlayStation 4. However, visually best on the Pro, but still completely playable and enjoyable on the base model nonetheless. But what if there will be no Nintendo Switch Pro? Could Breath of the Wild 2 then be used as another dual release title in 2022? Now, in this video we should probably also elaborate on what we mean by a next-gen system. It's the other half of the coin here. Either a hardware revision or next-gen system interpretation could manifest in 2021 after all.
Many will by the end of 2022 wish for a 4K Nintendo system. The Switch isn't one. At the same time, the concept of the Switch is genius with both docked and undocked play, and with a more powerful performance docked than undocked, you can imagine how far technology can bring us. Think about it though, the Switch would be at the end of a regular 5+ years cycle, in the end of 2022. The timing seems right. Think the Switch, but with a dock power that is equal to the PS4 Pro. Of course, this is all just speculation for the time being, but the bar has been set by Nintendo in the past, and it's good to cover all of our bases. Just like with the potential Nintendo Switch Pro, the direction of such a console could prove as a rounding out of the Switch's audience too. Since let's be honest, the Switch isn't exactly geared towards hardcore gamers first. Thus we all still hope for Switch Pro in 2021, as we need a model that will target the neglected audience which wants a smooth and sharp Nintendo experience when playing titles such as The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2, Metroid Prime 4 or Monolith Soft's new IP. In fact, many of us will be more than willing to spend $399 on a Switch model that will make Nintendo's best games run even better. With that being told, if not the Pro, we wouldn't have anything against the successor system to the Switch itself at the end of 2022. After all, that would be close to 6 years after the launch of the Switch and 3 years after the release of the Switch Lite.
You know, the more we think of it, the Switch Pro at this point just wouldn't make sense. Nintendo and all of us would be better off focusing on a new console altogether, cost and hardware wise at least. As how many times are we supposed to buy new Switches? First in 2017, then the Switch Lite in 2019, and now the Animal Crossing model with all of the other game limited edition versions too. Well, in the Animal Crossing case, me I suppose, but that's besides the point, as I love Animal Crossing. Psst, by the way, new video going up soon. Still, spending $399 on a slightly more powerful Nintendo Switch Pro in 2021 would only make sense if the successor to the Nintendo Switch would not come out till 2023 or 2024, much like what was the case with the new 3DS in 2015 in comparison to the Nintendo Switch in 2017. Of all possibilities that could happen in 2021, we think that the Nintendo Switch Pro only makes sense if Nintendo plans for the Nintendo Switch to last at least 7+ years before the launch of a successor, which might be the case, as why throw away a certain winner too soon? The Switch is no Wii U, that's for sure, as more Switches have been sold in Europe alone than the Wii U's entirety around the world. Another reason to become a supporter of the Nintendo Switch Pro in 2021 is to prevent Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 from becoming just like Breath of the Wild, a dual-release game across two consoles. Only in this case, the 2022 Nintendo Switch Swan Song, and as a launch title for this hypothetical new console as we have described. We hope this doesn't come to pass, as it would be a shame to kill off the Switch this early, and much worse, it would mean that we need to wait another 2 years for Breath of the Wild 2, and none of us want this game to be held back for another 2 years. No, just no. On top of that, it would be greatly disadvantageous for the game to be held back by the Switch's limitations as compared to what an entirely new system could do. The Nintendo Switch deserves to shine for at least another 3 to 4 years. Let it have its mid-cycle Zelda and Mario titles, and then for the next console, we want to see a brand new Zelda and Mario title, with brand new concepts and in the case of Zelda, a new setting and new Link. Also guys and girls, what we just detailed was the darkest scenario for the Nintendo Switch, so before we end, let's go over the brightest scenario at the very least for Zelda fans. Namely, that nothing happens, no Nintendo Switch Pro in 2021 or successor before 2023. What implications does this have?
Number 1. The sequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild could still come out this year in 2020. We want a big system seller this holiday season, and nothing will beat the direct sequel to one of the best video games of all time. Also, Ocarina of Time and Twilight Princess Ganondorf is back in a new Zelda game after 14 years. Please don't make it 15 or, God forbid, 16. Number 2. A sequel to Super Mario Odyssey on the Nintendo Switch. Just like Zelda, it could already happen this year. More on it in the video in the right card. Number 3. The Nintendo Switch actually surpassing the total sales of the Nintendo Wii, which has been Nintendo's long-term target ever since launching the system in 2017. Last but not least, number 4. Metroid Prime 4 on the Nintendo Switch. We might get a 2D Metroid, but until then, the only new Metroid game certain to be on the Nintendo Switch so far is Metroid Prime 4, and we all want to see it on the Nintendo Switch. In other words, we think Nintendo would do best by staying with the concept of the Switch. Flesh out the console with great games, give it the features it desperately needs, and just, make the most of what we already have. That way, everyone will be pleased. I guess that's all we have to say regarding the Nintendo Switch Pro and a successor to the Switch, or lack of both of them, in 2020. There's nothing else to do or talk about, but wait to see if 2021 will bring us something more. But as always, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the Commonwealth Realm, and press that shiny notification bell for all notifications to not miss any of our upcoming Nintendo Switch, Zelda, and so on videos. And also make sure to comment and share your thoughts on the lack of any new Switch models in 2020, the possibility of a Switch Pro in 2021, or even a new Nintendo system before 2023. Finally, a big thanks goes to all our patrons on patreon.com/commonrealm. Consider pledging there or doing it here on YouTube by pressing that join button. Anyway, girls and guys, we'll see you in the next video, or one of the two in front of you.